Hi, I'm Tyler Ballhorn, and this is the Stockscores Market Minutes for July 4th, 2014. This week, I want to talk about how to trade a slower summer market. Of course, the summer months tend to have lower trading volume and less trading action. However, even in a slow market, there are good trading opportunities. In fact, I have seen some of the biggest movers happen in a slow market. The key is to be selective and only take the very best of the best, because the marginal trades lack the crowd to give that trade follow through. You want to focus on the stocks trading abnormally and, as I said, be selective with the trades you take. You will trade less by being fussy, and only the best trade should be taken. But if you do that, you can be successful. Now, what I like to do is use the Stockscores market scan to identify stocks trading abnormally. Now, you can use one of the preset scans. If you are an advanced member to Stockscores, I recommend the Abnormal Breaks Canadian or Abnormal Breaks US scan. And that's more a scan to be done late in the day or after the market closes. If you are looking at the market during the day, I recommend running the Morning Simple Canada and Morning Simple US. These will find stocks that are behaving in an abnormal way early in the trading day. And I typically run that about 45 minutes to an hour after the open. Of course, it ultimately comes down to chart pattern recognition. Once you run the scan, look at the charts and look for those stocks that have the right kind of chart pattern. All right, let's get into this week's analysis. And the S&P 500 continues to move higher, breaking through to new highs this past week on, as I've said, in a summer market, light volume. Now, of course, earnings season starts next week, and so we should see a pickup in the volume and a pickup in intraday volatility, which has been pretty quiet. The market is still in its upward sloping channel. It is not at the top of that channel, so I think that there is still upside in the market in the near term. But of course, anytime you have a market making these kinds of gains on light volume, there is some potential for profit taking. Canadian market, very similar situation. It remains in its upward channel. There is no sign of weakness anywhere. Volume is light, which is the one main concern of what's happening in the market, but it does look like this upward trend will continue. The TSX Venture is building a very good bottoming pattern. Now, I don't think we're going to see a real show of strength necessarily in the TSX Venture in the weeks ahead, although it certainly is possible, but my expectation is we're going to stall at that horizontal line of resistance that I've drawn in red. But what's encouraging is that the downward trend line was broken in January, and now we're building a rising bottom with lessening volatility, and that sets up for a break from confidence, for a break from optimism. The fact that we have these rising bottoms here is really something that hasn't happened for a very long time in the TSX Venture, and so I do think that this market has promise. It's just going to take a little bit more time. I think this is the most important chart of the week. This is the chart of U.S. Treasury, 20-year Treasuries, the TLT, and it really had a down week last week, which means that interest rates went up. And it really is one where we're stalling at that longer-term resistance at that downward trend line. And my expectation is we're likely to see Treasuries move lower, which means interest rates moving higher. And that could be a little bit of a restraint on the U.S. stock market, and really the global stock market. U.S. dollar is still in that pessimistic pattern, but it has very strong support. We see that it repeatedly bounces off of the green line, and it did so again this week. And so I don't see a reason to think that the U.S. dollar is going to go lower, but certainly the sellers are still in control, so there is pessimism in that U.S. dollar. Gold is at a real critical point. We've talked about this a number of times in recent weeks. It's trying to break that downward trend line, and in a very strict sense, it did do that last week, but not with a lot of enthusiasm or authority. So my sense is there's a good chance that the gold market is going to turn around, and it is a good thing to watch for, but I'm not yet ready to say, hey, it's time to buy gold wholeheartedly, because I think we're only seeing early signs. Now, I am seeing some good signs in some of the junior gold mining stocks, and so I do, again, don't take your eyes off this market because I do see potential there. The energy market, the oil market, rallied up to resistance at the red line on the chart and had a down week this week, pretty much expected. I've talked about that recently. I think it should hold its upward trend line this coming week, and it's a question of whether that long-term breakout through the red line will happen. I think that could happen sometime this summer, and so I'm generally bullish on Oil in the longer term, although in the short term we're probably neutral on oil to slightly negative. The VIX is moving to new lows. Ultimately, a lot of complacency there. That makes the market, I think, a little bit risky, but at the same time, there's really no sign of weakness, so you have to stay long stocks and stick with that long-term upward trend. So as I said, bullish on US and Canadian stocks, neutral on gold in both the short and medium-term time frame, but real critical on gold right now. We could see a strong break very soon in gold. Bullish long-term on oil, neutral in the short term. Continued strength in stocks on light volume shows no sign of ending, but of course, profit taking is inevitable. Oil will struggle with resistance in the short term. Gold is fighting against that long-term downward trend, but could become the next hot market if it can break through that downward trend line. Treasuries are stalling at resistance, which could lead to higher interest rates in the relatively near term. Well, that has been the Stockscores Market Minutes for July 4th, 2014. Have a great week in the market and trade well.